what's up guys? It's Girja and today we are going to talk about learning. Yay! Oh my god, ew! Isn't it like summer? Well, obnoxious and only slightly more hip version of myself, it is in fact summer, but we are still learning. In fact, believe it or not, we are always learning. And because I'm a total nerd and I think brains are super cool, I did some research and I'm going to start off with some science because this is what I do sometimes when I'm bored. So, our brains are constantly changing and evolving and molding to process the information that we receive every day. Literally, they're molding. For example, some people compare the changing in our brain to taking a coin and making an impression of it into a lump of clay. Obviously, our brains aren't being imprinted and forced with information, but they are changing by changing how our neurons are circuited. These changes in how our neurons are circuited, or how our neural pathways are organized, is called neuroplasticity. Fun fact, neuroplasticity happens for two reasons. One, for when we're learning and developing, and two, for when we suffer some serious brain damage and our brain needs to compensate for its loss. So now back to the learning. When we receive information, electrical and chemical signals cause new pathways to be formed, especially if we want to remember this certain piece of information. So when we initially get a piece of information, it's stored as short-term memory, which doesn't indicate lots of change. But as we continue to focus and concentrate and study this one piece of information that we really don't want to forget, new pathways are created. As we study, signals are transported through the axon of a nerve cell, which is a part of the cell where impulses travel between the two cells. From the axon, the signal is transferred into the soma, or center, of the second nerve cell. From the center of the second nerve cell, the signal is transported to the dendrites, which are branch-like extensions on the end of the cell, which then signals other cells to transport the same signal, and so on and so forth, and the message is being passed on. So as we're learning and studying things over and over again, those neural pathways that we created are being revisited over and over and over again. So when we focus and experience those pathways that many times, the information becomes stored in our memory, which is like so totally awesome, because that one night where you just sat there staring at that one math equation hoping that it would somehow end up in your brain, it might have actually ended up in your brain. But the science isn't the only cool thing. It's really amazing to see the learning process in action. As you know, I was a camp counselor at a Spanish immersion camp at the very beginning of the summer. Some of the kids I worked with had a lot of experience in Spanish and were really good at it. But a lot of the kids, had never heard a word of Spanish other than hola. So, it was very difficult to interact with them. But by the end of the week, I was able to have these conversations with these kids who had never spoken a word of Spanish before, and it was like the greatest feeling in the world. It just proved to me that the human mind was capable of changing and adapting. That we may not understand something, but that doesn't mean we never will or never can. I mean, sure, we're not going to agree with everything that we learn about, but that doesn't mean we have to delete the information as nonsensical or wrong. We have the ability to try harder, to try our best, and to create those new pathways. And that ability, to me, is probably one of the greatest and most valuable qualities that we possess. So yeah, brains are really, really cool, but I am so not an expert on this stuff at all. I had to do lots of research. In fact, I'll put some of the links in the thingy thing below. I hope I explained everything correctly. If you're out there and you know more about this and I did something wrong, let me know, because that's important. Also, speaking of learning, making and editing videos is new to us. So any tips, suggestions, don't do this, anything, would be appreciated. Yeah, thanks.